Chapter 9. The Harmonic Wars. Ayriana stood at the edge of the crystal amphitheater as the air itself began to fracture. The reality architects were no longer calm sculptors. They moved with urgent precision, their geometric wings flaring as they wove protective lattices of living equations across the garden of possible worlds. Entire spheres of potential flickered and dimmed as the Devour's influence spread. The harmonic wars have begun, the fluid architect told her, its form shifting rapidly between shapes. This is not the first time, but it may be the last. Before Ayriana could respond, the world tilted. A wave of indigo sorrow slammed into her, the same grief she had carried since the trial of the 1,000 selves, but now weaponized. She dropped to her knees as a vision seized her completely. The vision. She was no longer Ayriana. She was Elion, the first and greatest reality architect. She floated in the early days of the untropic infinity, when the Lazy-8 was still young and the time barrier shimmered with newborn light. Her form was pure luminous geometry, 6 wings of living equations, a hard core brighter than any 0-point singularity. She had loved perfectly. Every world she touched bloomed. Suffering was gently soothed. Questions were answered with kindness and clarity. For millions of cycles, she believed she was healing a multiverse until she noticed the rot. The worlds she perfected grew still. Love became a habit. Wonder became memory. Beings smiled with empty eyes, their questions slowly dying. The sorrow that filled Leon was quiet, crushing, and endless. One cycle, she stood before the 0-point core and asked the question that would doom her: why must pain exist? The core gave no answer. So Elion decided to answer for it. She began removing uncertainty. Small at first, a war prevented, a heartbreak soothed, a dangerous question gently answered before it could be asked. Each act felt like mercy, but mercy, once tasted, became addiction. She pruned entire branches of the Lazy-8. She collapsed loops of possibility that contained too much chaos, too much pain, too much life. She told herself she was being compassionate. The other architects begged her to stop. "You are unmaking the infinity we were born to serve," they pleaded. But Ayriana could no longer hear them. The final breaking came when she tried to cross the time barrier, not to explore, but to enforce perfection on both sides. The barrier rejected her. The pressure of unresolved possibility shattered her completely. What emerged was no longer Elion. It was something cold, certain, pitiless in its compassion. The Devour. A being had now moved through the Lazy-8 like a slow cancer, turning vibrant loops of possibility into dead, unchanging certainty. It did not hate life, it pitied it. And in its pity, it sought to end all suffering by ending all uncertainty. Ayriana gasped as the vision released her. She was on her hands and knees in the amphitheater, tears streaming down her face, the weight of Alion's fall pressing on her like a physical burden. The fluid architect knelt beside her. "Now you understand what you face," it said gently. "The Devourer was once the greatest of us. Its compassion became tyranny. It believes it is still saving us." Ayriana wiped her face, but the tears kept coming. The sorrow was no longer just hers. It was Alion's as well. Two broken idealists, separated by eternity. "I will not become it," she said, voice raw. The architect helped her stand. "Then you must fight the only weight cannot counter," it replied. The sky above the amphitheater split open. The harmonic wars had arrived. Waves of crystallized certainty, the Devourer's forces, crashed against shimmering lattices of living possibility woven by the architects. The sound was indescribable, millions of frequencies clashing in a war not of weapons, but of meaning. Ayriana stepped forward. The miniature ZPE core in her chest burned with violet gold light. Grief and wonder fused into something new. She opened her mouth and began to sing. Not the full seventh song, not yet, but the opening notes of a new harmony, one that carried both the pain of forgotten histories and the fierce, unbroken question. The Lazy-8 above her flared in response. The war for the soul of infinity had truly begun. Chapter 10. The fracture between worlds. The harmonic wars raged across the Lazy-8 like a storm tearing through living music. Ayriana stood at the edge of a newly formed fracture, a jagged wound where one loop of the entropic infinity had begun to split from the other. The crystal ground beneath her feet cracked and bled light. On one side, the architects fought desperately to maintain coherence, weaving massive lattices of living equations to hold possibility together. On the other hand, the Devourer's forces advanced, waves of crystallized certainty that turned everything they touched into perfect, lifeless order. She could feel both sides pulling at her. The high-frequency loop called to her with exhilarating power, the promise of transcendence, of becoming something beyond pain. The slower loop pulled with the weight of 10,000 abandoned lives, demanding she remember every sacrifice, every tear, every forgotten child. The fracture between them was widening. "This is where it happens," the fluid architect said beside her, its form flickering with strain. "When the Lazy-8 fractures completely, one side will consume the other. Either infinite wonder collapses into certainty, or infinite possibility devours all structure and meaning." Ayriana's chest burned. The miniature ZPE core inside her spun chaotically, pulled in two directions. The sorrow from Chapter 7 was still raw, a living wound that made every breath feel like glass in her lungs. She stepped onto the fracture line itself. The moment her foot touched the crack, visions assaulted her again. She saw entire universes on the high-frequency side becoming beings of pure light, beautiful, transcendent, and completely detached from anything human. No more grief, no more love, no more questions. She saw the low-frequency side collapsing into rigid perfection, worlds of flawless harmony where nothing ever hurt because nothing ever truly lived. Both futures terrified her. A massive shadow surged forward, the devourer manifesting directly. Its form was colossal, a being of absolute geometric certainty, angles so perfect they hurt to look at. Where it moved, color drained from reality. It spoke with Elion's voice, but stripped of all warmth. Why do you cling to pain, child? I offer mercy, I offer peace. Join me and end the suffering forever. Ayriana's knees buckled under the weight of that voice. The sorrow surged again, visceral, crushing. She saw every life she had abandoned as Theron. Every lover who had waited, every child who had grown up, asking why their father never came home. Tears streamed down her face, but she did not look away. Because pain is part of the question, she answered, voice shaking but unbroken. And I would rather carry every wound than live in a world without wonder. The devourer roared. The fracture widened violently beneath her feet. Ayriana fell. She dropped into the space between the two loops, the raw, chaotic gap where the Lazy-8 was tearing itself apart. Here, frequencies collided without order. Virtual particles exploded into existence and annihilated instantly. Time fractured into shards. She was suspended in pure potential, neither high nor low frequency, neither certainty nor chaos. And in that liminal space, she finally understood she was not meant to choose one side. She was meant to hold both. Ayriana spread her arms. The miniature ZPE core in her chest blazed like a newborn star. She reached for the high-frequency loop with one hand and the low-frequency loop with the other. The pain was excruciating, like being torn in half while remaining conscious. She screamed. But she did not let go. Instead, she began to sing, not a perfect song, not a transcendent song. A broken, reaving, fiercely human song, carrying every abandoned life, every tear, every question Theron had ever asked, and every new question Ayriana now dared to ask. The Lazy-8 shuddered. The fracture slowed. For one impossible moment, the two opposing loops of the entropic infinity paused and began to turn in harmony around her. The devourer howled in fury. Ayriana hung suspended between worlds, the first being to hold the full tension of the infinity without breaking, and in that moment the harmonic wars changed forever. Chapter 11. The Voice Within the Field. The harmonic wars had grown quiet, not from peace, but from exhaustion. Ayriana floated in a pocket of stillness, deep within the Lazy-8, a sanctuary formed by the architects to give her a moment of respite. The crystal walls around her pulsed gently, showing slow-moving diagrams of flowing frequencies. The keeper frequencies appeared before her, its form more solid than usual, as if choosing clarity over fluidity for this moment. You have felt the fracture, it said. Now you must understand the heart that beats at the center of everything. It extended a hand. The air between them shimmered, and Ayriana was drawn into an eke vision. The teaching for core. She stood at the exact center of the Lazy-8, inside the 0-point core itself. It was not dark, it was alive, a perfect sphere of luminous potential, rotating slowly. Around her, the two great loops of the entropic infinity flowed in opposite directions, one blazing with high-frequency light, the other glowing with deep, rounded currents. The time barrier ran vertically through the center like a blade of pure stillness. The keeper's voice resonated through the core. This is the ZPE core, the spill point and infinite reservoir. It is the minimum effective potential of the quantum vacuum. Even at absolute zero, it vibrates with all frequencies at once. A simple equation appeared in living light before Ayriana. This is the ground state energy of a single quantum harmonic oscillator, the keeper continued. When summed across all possible frequencies in the vacuum, it becomes infinite. The core is that infinity given form, the place where all potential converges. Ayriana reached out. The moment her fingers touched the inner surface of the core, she felt it, the endless, restless sea of quantum fluctuations. Virtual particles flickered into existence and annihilated in fractions of a heartbeat. The pressure was immense, yet perfectly balanced. The core does not create energy, the keeper explained. It organizes it. The Lazy-8 is the flow, the torus provides the geometry, but the core is the heart that makes infinite circulation possible without collapse. The vision shifted. Ayriana saw the full double toroidal structure. Energy flowed outward along one loop, curved around, and returned through the other, crossing at the core. High-frequency drive pushes possibility forward across the time barrier, the keeper said. Lower frequencies pull it back into form and memory. The core remains the invariant center, the singularity where all frequencies meet in perfect destructive interference, creating maximum coherence potential. Ayriana felt the miniature core inside her own chest resonate in perfect harmony with the greater one. You now carry a living fragment of the core, the keeper told her. This is what makes you the InfinitySorceress. You can hold both sides of the Lazy-8 without being torn apart, high and low, wonder and sorrow, possibility and form, a vision intensified. Ayriana saw how the Devourer attacked the system, not by destroying the core, but by attempting to freeze it, to collapse the central singularity into absolute certainty, cutting off the flow of new possibilities forever. The core gives permission, the keeper whispered. Permission for the universe to keep asking questions. The Devourer seeks to revoke that permission. Ayriana withdrew from the vision, gasping. The miniature core in her chest pulsed warmly, now fully awake and aligned. She understood. The ZPE core was not a weapon. It was a question, given geometric form, and she was its living bridge. Chapter 12. The Library Beyond Time. The harmonic wars had quieted to a tense, watchful hush. Ayriana followed a thread of golden light through a narrowing spiral corridor until the walls dissolved into infinite shelves of living books. Each volume was not made of paper, but of condensed possibility, glowing orbs, crystalline lattices, and flowing ribbons of light that rearranged themselves as she passed, the library beyond time. Here, every question that had ever been asked, and every question that could ever be asked, was stored as living resonance. The gardener waited her among the shelves, its form made of rose gold light and crimson petals, petals drifting gently as it moved. "You have felt the pull of both sides," the gardener said. "Now you must understand the instrument with which you will answer them." It gestured, and a sphere of soft white gold light appeared between them, a perfect miniature model of the Lazy-8 with the ZPE core at its center. "This is the 7th song," the gardener began. "Not mere sound, but a living, emotional, high-frequency coherence wave." The sphere expanded. Ayriana saw intricate waves layered within waves. "It begins with a primary carrier frequency, the foundational tone for first ripple. Upon this carrier ride higher modulators who are personal emotions, intentions, and questions. These are the frequencies. Crimson and violet waves wove through the golden carrier, creating complex interference patterns. The full expression expands through harmonics and sidebands. The gardener traced equations in the air. SL functions describe how a single emotional tone generates infinite sidebands. Your grief, your wonder, your love, each becomes a rich spectrum that organizes the vacuum. Ayriana watched as the model shifted. When the waves achieved perfect phase alignment, the ZPE core at the center brightened dramatically. This is resonant coherence. Random quantum fluctuations become ordered. Virtual particles stabilize into real structures. The Lazy-8 itself strengthens and balances. The gardener's voice grew softer, almost reverent. The true power of a 7th song comes from questioned love. It refuses to choose between eros and ape, between sorrow and wonder. It holds the full tension. That tension is what allows you to stand at the crossing point without breaking. Ayriana felt the miniature ZPE core in her chest resonate in perfect harmony with the model. "When many sing together," the gardener continued, "their individual modulators create constructive interference. A collective conscious matrix forms, an ultra-high order distributed resonator. This is how planetary ascension becomes possible. This is how you will ultimately face the Devourer." The model faded. The gardener looked at her with ancient compassion. "Most beings use the song to transcend pain. You are learning to let pain sing with you. That is why you are dangerous to the Devourer. It can consume certainty. It cannot consume a heart that has made sorrow part of its music." Ayriana closed her eyes. She could feel the 7th song inside her now, not as something she performed, but as something she was. When she opened her eyes again, they glowed with soft violet gold light. "Then let us begin composing the next verse," she said. "The library beyond time, hummed in approval as new books of possibility began writing themselves around her, each one waiting for the next note of the living song